House Education Committee will come to order. Good morning, everyone. We have a very busy schedule. We are going to take executive action on House Initiative 2081 concerning parental rights relating to their children's public school education. Shall we begin, please, with a quick overview from staff, a briefing on the high points of the initiative?
Good morning, Madam Chair, committee members. Glad to be with you early on this 54th day of the legislative session. Initiative 2081 declares 15 rights that parents and guardians of public school children have, including rights to receive or be notified of academic, medical, safety, and law enforcement matters, rights to examine and inspect certain materials and records, and rights to opt their children out of certain activities. There are no amendments in the books for the initiative.
Thank you. Are there questions of staff? Seeing none, Vice Chair Shavers.
Madam Chair, I move that Initiative 2081 be reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation.
It has been moved and seconded that Initiative 2081 be reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation. Are there amendments?
There are no amendments.
Is there discussion? Representative Rood.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Asking for a yes vote from the committee, and appreciate the most amazing briefing, Ethan, on a long bill or initiative. I think that as we heard in committee, a lot of what is in this bill is current law, but I do believe there's a lot of value for the public, parents in particular, to see all of this in one location. It can be difficult to track, especially for folks that aren't in the legislature, these kind of topics as they're interwoven all through statute in various places. So I appreciate that this bill was introduced by Representative Walsh, and appreciate the chair providing the opportunity for the public to have a voice in discussing the issue of parental rights. So I'm looking forward to seeing this on the ballot and asking for the committee's support.
Thank you. Are there further remarks? Representative Stonier.
Thank you, Madam Chair. When I first heard of this initiative, I was frustrated. I was thinking, here we go again. Recognizing how many times public school teachers' intent and public school leaders' intentions are misrepresented. Thinking about how intentional I was when crafting language in the Comprehensive Sexual Health Education Bill to ensure that parents had the opportunity to not only review what would be taught, but to also make sure that they could opt their kids out of that education if they wanted to do that at home. I was comforted by the briefing and the legal counsel that much of what we have intentionally put in statute is unchanged by this initiative, which still leaves me feeling frustrated, because the need for this clarity shouldn't be beyond what this letter of the law states. But here we are again. I'm comfortable supporting this today because I know that it does not change the protections that we work so hard to establish in the other committee that I sit on. I know it does not disrupt the access that students would have to services at their school-based health centers. I know now that mental health counseling and access to reproductive health care will not be undermined by this initiative. And while I'm frustrated at the misrepresentation that often comes with talking about whether or not parents have the right to be involved, even after so many intentional, this session and in sessions before, in my work and in the work of my colleagues, to be clear about that, Thanks to the briefing and the legal counsel, I feel comfortable supporting this today.
Thank you. Are there further remarks? Representative Ortiz-Self.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I heard a lot of, we heard some stories of what seems to be some parents' experience or perception of what's happening in our schools. And I was confused, I was sad, I was perplexed. Madam Speaker, in my school, as a school counselor, when I have groups with kids, I send home notices to the parents and they opt in. They sign giving me permission to pull their children out and meet with them. Whenever there is a crisis and we intervene, the first chance I get, I contact parents. We have curriculum that parents get notified that we're about to do, like a safe touch curriculum. Parents have the right to opt out, and we contact them. So, Madam Speaker, we've worked so hard to make sure that the rights of parents, I have worked so hard, my team has worked so hard to make sure that parent voice is at every level and that they know, and we protect the rights of any child that opts out. We make sure that there is no harassment, that they are well served. So to hear some of those stories, I think school boards need to step up if that's what's really happening and address some very critical issues in those areas. It really saddened me. But Madam Speaker, I will say this, that as someone who has advocated for years with my community and communities of color to be included in those spaces, that is where the work needs to continue to happen. I have been advocating that parents get translated materials, that our refugees and immigrants understand their rights and how to be involved and access to our school system, and we have failed in lots of areas. So that is the area that I'm hoping that if we're going to clarify things, that we need to clarify that all parents, every parent, no matter where they're from, no matter what their language, no matter who they worship or don't worship, needs to be at the table whenever we have committees. Materials need to be translated for them. They need to have a voice, and we have failed in that area. So that's the area I hope that we're going to really beef up as we make sure that we include them in all these processes. I'll be real honest with you. We send out notices to parents on my groups, and we send them in English. And I have to call parents myself in Spanish and explain to them what I'm doing. And I have to try to find someone to speak to them in Ukraine or Russian or Korean. And that is not okay. This is stuff we should be doing. So we've got some work to do, and I will acknowledge that. But I will also acknowledge that we have teachers who are working so hard to partner with parents and to work with them. And we have put so many things in statute to ensure that parent voice. And so to all the teachers out there that work so hard to do that, keep doing your great work. We do it because we know it's right. Parents are our partners. Keep doing that great work. For the areas we need to improve on to include all parents, we'll keep working on that area as well. And I will say this, I also am concerned as a school counselor that we not use this to marginalize or hurt or harass any student in our school system, that we protect all students from any of that regardless of our views. And at the time that ends, we need to be back here and put in the protections to protect them. We are a public school system, which means every student that walks in that door must feel safe, must feel included, must see themselves. And I will continue to fight to that end. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Are there further remarks? Representative Couture.
Thank you, and good morning, Madam Chair. I just wanted to say that I'm proud that we live in a state where the people have the authority over the government, and that in our state's constitution, they have the ability to send us initiatives like this. They have the ability to legislate, and that not any one of us here or anyone in the Capitol is more powerful than the people of Washington. And it's incumbent upon me that when they send us an initiative, whether I agree with it or not, that we have to listen to what the people are saying. And with this initiative, over 400,000 people signed on the dotted line that they believe that we should reaffirm these parental rights, and that there should be more transparency and accountability in our school system. And I don't think that this initiative disparages some of the work that is done in schools or some of the hard work that our teachers and our staff do. I can tell you that as a dad of 4 kids who all went to public schools or go to public schools in my district, especially a dad of special needs kids who are in special education, that over the years I have been frustrated from time to time with the lack of feeling as a parent that I have power in our public education system when it comes to making sure that kids who are like mine get what they need to get the best education we can possibly deliver to them. And of course, there is a little bit of a crisis with we can do much better delivering the basic education to make sure that our comprehension rates are better than they are now. And we have seen a lack of enrollment. And of course, the pandemic hurt things a lot. It hurt our schools. It hurt our families. And we're still, in some ways, recovering from that time. And I think the spirit and intent of this initiative, although it essentially reaffirms what is already current, is that parents want to be involved. They want to be the sole and first educator in their kids' lives, and they don't want to feel like anything is hidden from them or that they do not have authority to parent their kids. And we've had a lot of discussions about parental rights in other areas, but when it comes to education, this is one of the most important things a parent or a family and the school and our public school and the child are going to endeavor on for the next 18 years of that child's life. And I stand in full support of this initiative, especially the spirit of the initiative, that parents' rights matter, that they should be able to see and consent to things that happen in their child's education. And I believe we should pass this initiative. It's important to our families. And finally, Madam Chair, I think that this initiative, passing this initiative, is a good first step to helping rebuild trust with those who have lost trust in our public education system. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks? Representative Paulette.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am voting no as an attorney who knows that this initiative doesn't repeal any rights. I'm voting no as someone who's been a law school faculty and public health faculty, and as a parent, because I know that rights without remedy are illusory, and because of fears of misinterpretation, misapplication, and because of the glaringly obvious problem of who has been left out of this so-called Parent Bill of Rights. I'm worried about misinterpretation and the effect on students who most need access to counseling or health care, who will have messages and misinterpretation that cause them to think that they can't get that without fear of disclosure to parents and others. This initiative may not actually affect the right of someone to, and a student to have private access and ensure that privacy, but it's about the messaging, and it leaves us with an immense amount of work that we will have to do to address the epidemic of mental health needs to make sure that students have counseling about drug use, about sex and avoiding pregnancy, about their gender and the fears of students who are gay or queer or transgender for disclosure. And it will leave us with a mountain of work to do to assure those students that they have to be protected and get the help and counseling or health care they need and desire. I'm worried because of who is left out in a so-called Bill of Rights for parents, when we've been working here in this committee and the legislature so hard to provide the rights, real rights, with staffing and funding and remedies for parents who have disabilities and whose children have disabilities, and they are entirely left out of this initiative. And I'm very concerned that the parents who need English translation to effectively participate in their children's schooling are left out of a so-called Parents' Bill of Rights, leaving us with even more work to do to try to ensure that this is not misinterpreted as some exclusive Bill of Rights, because it wasn't drafted with an inclusionary body, as it would have been if it had been drafted here in this committee or in the legislature. And for those reasons, as a parent and as an attorney, I am voting no. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks? Representative Nance.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We know it takes a village to raise a child. Parents and teachers, coaches and mentors. I am the proud product of Washington's K-12 public schools. I benefited from great teachers, great coaches, great mentors, and from strong parental involvement as well. And it made a really big difference in my journey. When I was in 6th grade, I went through a rough stretch, and my teachers, Mr. Corsetti and Miss O'Leary, were able to call my parents in and actually discuss a game plan to get me back on track. And that helped me get back on track. I believe this initiative to the legislature will help many of Washington's students get back on track and stay on track. And as lawmakers, we should advance policies that build the strongest villages to raise Washington's kids. I believe this initiative to the legislature is in that spirit, and so I'll be voting for it. Let this just be the next step in our journey to support all of Washington's kids, no matter what their educational backgrounds or aims, no matter what their family background looks like. We should be there in their corner to support every child here in Washington. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks? Representative Eslick.
Thank you, Chair Santos. I, too, will be voting yes on this, and it is a fact that parents that are involved in their children's education help to grow children to be successful. It is a fact, the more involved they are in their school, it is a fact that that child has a better chance to grow up to be healthy and an asset to themselves and to their family. I was very fortunate to be able to adopt a little girl at 2.5, and by the time she was ready for school, I was in that classroom with her. It is an amazing process, and what I think that this bill has really done, this initiative that's really done, is emphasize to the parents that they do have a voice, and it also emphasizes to the staff that they need to listen to the parents, and they all need to be working together. So I'll be very pleased to vote yes for this initiative. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks? Representative Timmons.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, as we heard during public testimony on this initiative, parents play a foundational role in the education of their children. As the father of a small child myself, I know I sure want say in his education when he goes to kindergarten and beyond. And that's really what I appreciate about this initiative, frankly, is that it affirms the rights of parents and the important role that they play in our education system. I do share some concerns, though, which have been articulated by colleagues here. I'm very, very concerned with the state of mental health of our students and the well-being. One of my takeaways from the public testimony during this initiative is the weight of the world on children at the moment, frankly. And this initiative, I think, adds some anxiety to some students, and that has me very concerned. In addition to parents, educators and support staff play a fundamental and foundational role in the education of our students as well. And each and every student deserves a quality education and to feel welcome and supported in their educational environment. So I'm voting yes in this for this initiative today because I believe that parents do have a right in their children's education, and I support that. But I also take seriously the role of oversight that this legislature plays for our education system, and I'm going to be monitoring how this initiative takes effect, and I'll be ready to stand on behalf of students and educators as needed moving forward. So I vote yes. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Are there further remarks? Representative Harris.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm of the same faith as Mr. Hayward, who put up the $8 million for these initiatives. And Mr. Hayward moved from California and moved his 40 employees here. I think the major reason that any man puts up $8 million is because he probably felt like he couldn't get this through the process. And listening today, he probably was right. He moved here because he just wanted to take care of his kids. I think this is very inclusive. I think that Mr. Hayward ran this through, as I understand, probably 8 attorneys, but there's always a smarter attorney than the other one. I just really believe that this is a balancing of life and society at times. I served on a school board because I was concerned about my children. And as I got involved in the process, I believe our education system is phenomenal in many ways. But I believe we make sometimes decisions that become family decisions here, and it concerns individuals. And I believe this is a difficult balancing act, but I absolutely will be voting for this. I believe that if anything was happening to any of my children, I would want to know. I don't think this takes that away from them. I just can't fathom not having a relationship with my child if they wanted to do something that they couldn't come to me and talk about that. I understand there's families that are not in that situation. But this won't preclude that. But this will open the door, I hope, for dialogue within families. And I'll be voting yes.
Thank you. Are there further remarks? The chair urges a yes vote. We've had truly a robust discussion on this final passage, even though I would probably argue most of us knew how we were going to cast our vote when we walked into this room. And I think it is because the underlying issues are still very challenging and troubling for us, regardless of how we cast our vote today. We have heard from the public that all is not right in our world of education. All is not right for our primary constituents. We've heard today, and we heard throughout the testimony, that nearly 450,000 Washingtonians signed these initiatives. I do want to place that in a little bit of context. That's less than 6.5% of the state's population. Nonetheless, the message is loud and clear that parents do feel disenfranchised. That is something that many communities have been saying for generations. Indeed, it's one of the reasons I am here in the legislature, because people in my community felt disenfranchised by the institutions, by the systems, by the policies, by the procedures. They did not feel heard. They did not feel seen. And so I very much resonate with that messaging. But there's another message here, and it is the one that makes this vote difficult for many of us on this side of the aisle. And that is, students have rights too. And as the good gentleman from the 17th just indicated, not everyone has the great fortune to come from a great family with two loving, involved parents. And it's not just that it's all of those in combination. It could be any one part of those. You could have a loving parent who is working 5 jobs to provide for a roof over your head and food on your table. So parents need to be heard and seen, but so do students. And there is fear right now in the community. I have always been proud that this committee has made a point of saying that we are going to be student-centered in our policy making and success-focused, student-centered. And so I am glad to know from the many attorneys that this initiative does not dislodge many of the basic protections that our students need and rely on to feel safe, to be seen, to be protected by the institutions and the systems and the policies and the procedures that we collectively on this committee and in the other building are responsible for. Ultimately, we will have to monitor to make sure, because in the end, all of these systems, all of these institutions, all of these policies, and all of these procedures must be administered by people. And frankly, we are the wild card. It's our biases. It's our perspectives. It's our histories, especially for those of us who are fortunate enough to be in positions of power. It is incumbent on us to monitor and make sure that the protections that we believe parents and students need, deserve, and are entitled to are upheld. But today, I will be voting yes, not only for parents, but I will be voting yes for students to say, I stand with you. And we will walk this journey together. And with that, I will ask staff to please pull up the committee standing report and call the roll.
Shavers.
Aye.
Rep. Shavers votes aye. Rude. Rep. Rude votes aye. McIntyre. Aye. Rep. McIntyre votes aye. Bergquist. Aye. Rep. Bergquist votes aye. Couture.
Aye.
Couture votes aye. Eslick.
Aye.
Rep. Eslick votes aye. Harris. Harris aye. Rep. Harris votes aye. McClintock. Rep. McClintock votes aye. Nance. Aye. Rep. Nance votes aye. Ortiz Self. Aye. Rep. Ortiz Self votes aye. Paulette. Aye. Rep. Paulette votes nay, do not pass. Steele.
Steele votes aye.
Rep. Steele votes aye. Stonier.
Aye.
Rep. Stonier votes aye. Timmons. Rep. Timmons votes aye. Santos. Rep. Santos votes aye.
The chair would ask that members please check your vote as it's reflected on the committee standing report before you and indicate whether or not you wish to choose or correct your vote. Hearing none, would you, Max, please announce the vote totals?
Madam Chair, there are 14 ayes, 1 nay, 0 absent or excused.
By your vote, you have reported Initiative 2081 from committee with a due pass recommendation. Before we adjourn this committee, I know some people will need to leave to get us ready for our day's work, but this is the last meeting of the House Education Committee, and I would invite the ranking member to say some closing remarks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I primarily wanted to just acknowledge and thank staff for the tremendous amount of work that they do. Both OPR staff and our caucus staff. I've worked very closely with Stephanie all session long as a team to work on our side of the aisle to develop our legislative priorities, and it's been a lot of work but very rewarding. I know there have been a couple bills that have taken an inordinate amount of time. And I appreciate, in particular, Megan spent a lot of time in rooms with Representative Callan and I working on isolation and restraint. And so I just appreciate the dedication and long hours that are put in to support all of us up here in being successful in serving our constituents back home. So on behalf of the committee, thank you so much.
Thank you, Ranking Member. The chair would also take this opportunity to express my personal, as well as on behalf of all of the committee members, both Democrat and Republican, to our staff. I think it goes without saying we could not do our job if we did not have the best team in the legislature. I am inclusive of both our caucus staff as well as our nonpartisan staff. I think, you know, as an individual, I come to rely on each and every one of you. And I appreciate that, I know that when I don't have immediate access to Alice, I can go to any of the nonpartisan staff, and I can go to the Republican caucus staff. And that is something that preserves and protects this institution that we call the People's House. I would finally just say thank you to the ranking member, the assistant ranking member, to my vice chair, to all of the members of the committee for your goodwill, for your good hearts, for your intentionality about focusing in on the needs of students. We've not always had an easy time plowing through policy, but at the end of the day, we have managed, I think, to show our public that education can be and should be a nonpartisan matter for the sake of all of our children. So with that, I am going to ask Vice Chair Shavers to please present our staff, all of our staff, with a little token of our appreciation, and I will invite all of the committee members to rise, as well as the audience, to rise and thank our staff. And with that, the House Education Committee is adjourned.